The financial markets have been turbulent in recent time. The pandemic caused financial restraint on many companies and sectors of the economy. The same goes for the economy in the northern part of the world. We will take a closer look at how banks have fared, especially the Swedish bank Swedbank. Swedbank is considered as one of the bigger banks in Scandinavia, with over 45 billion Swedish crowns in revenue. This translates to roughly about 4.5 billion euros or $5.3 billion in revenue. Swedbank had a good standing in the financial world. However, Swedbank in recent years have experienced some hiccups and hardships. The most noted hardship is the money laundering accusations that the company were found guilty of. This is not particularly specific to Swedbank. Many banks have been used for criminal money transfers before. Banks do, however, have a duty to counter this and report any suspicious behaviors from clients. This is where Swedbank somewhat failed. The then ex-CEO Birgitte Bonnesen were very outspoken about the safety regulations of the bank, ensuring that the bank were safe and secure. When interviewed, Birgit claimed that no suspicious activities were registered in Swedbank. This was later proved false, and that through the Estonian affiliates of Swedbank, Russian mafia used Swedbank among other banks to transfer money. As you can imagine, this led to a couple of complications. First of all, the bank was fined by the Swedish Finansinspektionen. The fine amounted to 4 billion Swedish crowns. That amounts to 4 million euros. This was paid during 2020. Secondly, since Swedbank lacked in preventing money laundering activities, where certain high-profile individuals were involved, the American authorities is also investigating the money laundering that took place. Thirdly, and probably the most important factor, is that the reputation of Swedbank was hurt. When the news first came out, the stock plunged from a high 200 to 140. This amounts to a loss of about 30%. When the pandemic hit, the stock fell again, but has since recovered and is now hovering between 140 to 150 crowns per stock. This amounts to approximately 15 euros or about 16 or 17 US dollars. The ex-CEO Bonnesen was fired, and the new CEO, Jens Henriksson, came and quickly started to work on restoring the reputation of Swedbank. Since the money laundering problems, Swedbank have invested heavily in safety measures, judicial consulting and technology to counter the reputation that is now lingering over Swedbank. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that Swedbank are taking active measures against illegal activities within the bank. The bad thing is that these measures cost money and are affecting profits. Let's take a look at the bank from a fundamental perspective and see how Swedbank is doing from a financial standpoint. All the financial information you are seeing is presented in Swedish crowns. If we look at the revenue, we can clearly see that Swedbank is doing quite well and have stood against the pandemic. The 2020 revenue result is at par with the 2019 result. We also see that the revenue has increased since 2012. The earnings have zigzagged its way in an upward direction, which is a good sign of competitiveness. However, the 2020 earnings result falls short. This partly because of the heavy fine from the Swedish authorities, and partly because of higher expenses. The reservation for credit losses during the pandemic also weighed on profits. However, without the fine, the earnings for 2020 would have been approximately 15 crowns per share, which is a lot better than the reported earnings of 11.51 crowns per share. If we take a look at the cost-income ratio, we clearly see that Swedbank tend to average at between 40 to 45%, which is a quite good result for a bank. The cost-income ratio shows the efficiency of a bank. The lower, the better. However, again, we see that the result for 2020 was significantly higher than it has been since 2012. There are two important metrics when analyzing a bank. These are the total deposits and total lending to the public. Throughout the years, we can clearly see that Swedbank is growing its business, with yearly increases to both deposits and lending. The more deposits a bank receives, the more money it can use to invest. Also, the more money a bank lends to the public, the more interest a bank can generate. So this looks pretty decent for a Swedbank. In conclusion, Swedbank is not a bad bank. There are some good aspects to its growing business. However, there are a couple of uncertainties ahead of Swedbank that makes things troublesome, and it makes investing in Swedbank somewhat risky. The risk lies in the uncertainties of: will the new CEO, Jens Henriksson, manage to steer Swedbank to better profits? Secondly, how much will Swedbank need to invest for safety measures and judicial counseling? And thirdly, what will happen with the United States investigation? These three main points are putting pressure on the Swedbank stock. Okay, so let's take a look at Swedbank as an investment. If we are being conservative, we can at least expect 14 in earnings per share from Swedbank, with approximately 50% paid out as dividends in the coming years. This amounts to approximately 1.39 euros in EPS, 0.69 euros in dividends, or $1.68 in EPS and $0.84 in dividends. The price for the stock as making of this video stands at approximately 151 Swedish crowns per share. That means that investing in Swedbank at this price will generate 9.2% return on EPS and 4.6% in dividend yield. Okay, so thank you for watching this far. I hope this video gave you some insight into Swedbank as a potential investment. This video is not a buy or sell recommendation. We simply provide information so you can make better investment decisions. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.